In this episode of Locked On Capitals, your Washington Capitals fall to the Edmonton Oilers 4-3. Nick Backstrom has a milestone night, and Ilya Samsonov's play only muddies the waters as to where he stands with the Washington Capitals. I will talk about all of that and more next on Locked On Capitals.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome in to this episode of Locked On Capitals. This podcast is free and available on all platforms. So when you're using your podcatcher of choice, make sure and hit that follow or subscribe button. That way you will know when the new podcasts are available. I also want to thank you for making this podcast your first listen or watch every day. All right, in this episode, we're going to talk about the Caps' performance and how they played. It took overtime for the Capitals to lose to this game, and even TJ Oshie's late-minute heroics weren't going to win it for him. And then we're going to talk about a special milestone night for Nick Backstrom. And then in the final segment, we will talk about Ilya Samsonov's play and how his play only muddies the waters as to where the Capitals stand with him. So your Washington Capitals fell to the Edmonton Oilers last night, 4-3. And like I say, there was even that last second goal. There was only seconds, I think 0.8 seconds left. And TJ Oshie got that goal, but it wasn't enough. There was that overtime goal by McDavid, and I'm thinking to myself, son of a beep. I thought they were going to win this game. When TJ Oshie tied that game with seconds left, I thought that was a good omen, and I thought that would be what would take the Capitals and propel them over the top. Ilya Samsonov had been playing lights out, uncharacteristically, pretty much the entire night, but McDavid's got that scoring touch, and it was just too much as the Capitals fall to the Oilers. If there is some good news to take from that game, the Washington Capitals did pick up a point, so it wasn't a total loss, but I was really kind of hoping that they would continue in their winning ways and make it 4 in a row. They're still trying to kind of peck away at the standings in the Metropolitan. And let's be honest here, they're not going to finish in the top, and they're not going to win the President's Trophy. At this point, it's just trying to get the team to gel and to solidify and to see what they have in tank and make decisions before the trade deadline. I think that Ilya Samsonov played tonight because it was off of a back-to-back game. Monday morning quarterbacking. I think that, VTech may have given them the advantage, but I can't really fault Ilya last night. He played pretty lights out. So just kind of breaking down the game here. It was a good game overall. I got to say, it was an entertaining game to watch. Sometimes those games that are just kind of, blowouts, those games can be like, even if your team's winning, it just can kind of get boring a little bit, So Nick Backstrom got a goal last night. TJ Oshie had 2 goals and darn near got a hat trick. So, they had the goal scoring there, but like I say, the Edmonton Oilers, they pulled the kitchen sink out of the wall and they threw it at the Washington Capitals. The Washington Capitals picked up that sink and threw it back at the Edmonton Oilers. They were fighting firefights out there. They were shooting back and forth at each other, but as it turns out, Edmonton Oilers was just too much for the Washington Capitals. The defense played well. It's just kind of hard to say exactly what went wrong. I think it was kind of fluky. I think that it was kind of evenly matched for the most part. And you can tell it took overtime to determine who the winner was. And, even that, I think just down to that last second, where McDavid got it. And I'm like, I thought they were going to pull it off somehow, some way. So Ilya Samsonov made 36 saves on 40 shots. So, you can't really fault him. But like I say, it's just, this is just making it a little bit more tough to figure out what the Capitals are going to do with him. So just to kind of break down the game here at first, Samsonov was in net, and it was a bit surprising, I got to be honest. I know it was coming off a back-to-back game against the Flames. And the Flames, that was another game I didn't think they were going to win because they are in first place in their division. But if I've learned anything this season, is that really doesn't matter. Sometimes the Caps beat teams that are better than them, and sometimes they lose to teams that aren't as good as them. And not to disparage anything about the Oilers, but I would say the Oilers aren't as good as the Flames, obviously, in the standings show that. So Samsonov was in net, and Samsonov was strong early, and I'm thinking to myself, who is this guy out there? I don't recognize this goalie, but he was playing lights out pretty much the entire game. He was standing on his head and flipping around and doing snow angels out there. It was a great performance from Ilya. And, hopefully they can continue to build on that with him. And then they got that roughing penalty from Dmitry Orlov. He kind of mixed it up with him in the corner a little bit too much. But it didn't really matter anyway because the Oilers went 0 for 1 on the power play. And then Ovi in the next play after that, who had a great game. He was out there smashing and banging everyone out there like he always does. And let's face it, he is out there to pass Jaromir Jagr. He is not going to be content to just be tied with Jaromir Jagr. He wants to surpass him. And I think that is very doable. And there was that goal that he scored, or near goal that he scored, where he was screaming up in the air, I should have got that goal. And even the fans in Edmonton were kind of laughing at him because you can tell that he wants that next goal so bad. And we all want that goal for him so bad. And then Koskinen was another, had made other great saves for the Oilers all night. Koskinen, who they're kind of undecided about him in Edmonton on, where they stand with him. There's rumblings out there that the Oilers are looking for goaltending as well. And who are they going to pick? I'm not really too worried about them, to be honest with you. I am worried about who the Washington Capitals are going to have in net. Which Ilya Samsonov is going to be playing in net for the Capitals? Is it going to be the Samsonov of earlier in the season, or is it going to be this current one? I think that Vitek Vanacek has solidified his spot as the number one netminder in the Washington Capitals organization. But just listening to Elliot Friedman during the game, he doesn't seem so sure that Marc-Andre Fleury might not come to the team. So it remains to be seen out there. Koskinen, like I say, played a decent game. The Oilers, in that period, they went 0 for 2 on the power play. So this team that has a lot of firepower, you got Draisaitl and McDavid out there, and they have a ton of scoring touch out there. It was not enough, but the Edmonton Oilers edged the Washington Capitals in the first period. They had 20 shots on goal, where the Washington Capitals only had 9. And then to start off that second period, I don't know if you guys caught the game, and if you didn't, you're going to want to go back and look at it. There was this kind of cool spinorama goal by Nick Backstrom, and that got the Washington Capitals on the board. And that was one of the goals where he got fed the puck, and I'm like, is he going to do anything with this puck or not? And he kind of just turned around and flipped it. It was one heck of a goal. And then to start off the second, Samsonov was continuing what he did in the first period, and that's playing lights out goaltending. The Caps bring the pressure, and they stand strong out there. There was a big offensive push by the Edmonton Oilers, and the Caps stood strong. I don't know what happened. Their defense just seems to be upping their game. I don't really care to know why, but they are, and that's what's important. And then kind of where they started to unravel a little bit in the second there, the Caps get a penalty for too many players on the ice, and Yamamoto ends up getting that goal, and that's kind of where it starts to derail a little bit. The Oilers had a big presence on the ice in that second period. I think they were kind of matching fire with fire out there, it seemed like last night. And I don't know. It's just seemed to me, I was hoping, like I said, that they were going to find a way to win that game so they could continue to keep building, because it just seems like you can continue with that swagger if you can continue to keep playing great games. And then the big news out there, and we'll touch on this in the second segment, is John Carlson feeds Nick Backstrom for his 1,000th point. But, everyone is just cheering and they're all so happy, but then it ends up getting reversed as they find out the Capitals were offsides. And that was one of those moments where I was screaming at the television, no. I was really looking for Backstrom to get that 1,000th point, and he ended up doing that last night. And hats off to him for playing really great for all these years. And then Cece out there. Cece, who is kind of like a Tom Wilson out there. He's a bigger body out there, was mixing it up with everyone out there. He ended up getting a goal off a rebound off Samsonov's pads there. And that was one of the things, if I could change anything about Samsonov's play, is kind of adjust and make sure that you can take control of those rebounds out there, because some of those rebounds got kind of out of hand. All right, to recap the third here, Kuzi got a penalty on the McDavid hooking. Samsonov continued to play strong in the third. Oshie gets his 7th goal of the season. And finally, Nick Backstrom gets his 1,000th point. There's no one to call it off. There's no review. It's official. He gets his 1,000th point. What a great moment for the Capitals. Malone ties it at 3. And then the Capitals did something, that's kind of getting to be a little bit more and more popular around the league. And Dean Evason does it in Minnesota a lot, is pulling the goalie early. Now, generally speaking, when you pull the goalie, you pull it, I would say, with a minute or less on the clock. The Capitals pulled the goalie with 2 minutes and 40 seconds left in the game. It was kind of a risky move, but I think Peter Laviolette is thinking to himself, if I don't do this now, when? And you got to kind of think that the coaches kind of look at other coaches around the league and see what they do and see what kind of success they've had. Like I said, Dean Evason in Minnesota does that, former Cap assistant coach, if you don't remember. And as it turns out, it paid off as TJ Oshie got that last second goal. There was only seconds, I want to say 0.8 seconds left on the clock. So they finish up with Washington 31 shots on goal and Edmonton 39. And then, like I say, McDavid wins it in overtime. And then the 3-game winning streak stopped for the Capitals. So the Capitals don't have any time to lick their wounds because they're playing Bruce Boudreau's Vancouver Canucks. Yes, these late night games continue as they head out to the left coast and they play the Vancouver Canucks. This is just not any Vancouver Canucks. Like I said, this is Bruce Boudreau's Vancouver Canucks. And you're like, well, what's the difference? If you looked at the Vancouver Canucks from the beginning of the season and you look at them now, they don't look anything the same. They're actually a pretty decent team. The Caps will have a scheduled day off today. Caps will hold a morning skate at 11:30 on Friday at Rogers Arena in Vancouver with media availability to follow. So, like I say, the Capitals have no time to lick their wounds. They've got to find a way to keep winning and chipping away at the standings, and they don't want to lose pace because, say, for some reason, the Blue Jackets find a way to turn on the pressure and they start picking up a bunch of points. I don't think it's possible, but anything's possible. The Capitals want to stay on par and on pace with where they're at. They don't want to be losing any points or losing any points in the standing. They want to be gaining them. So after the break, we will talk about Nick Backstrom and his historic night. But first, we will talk about BetOnline. It's that time of year again as college basketball's tournament is finally upon us. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline.net is the #1 source for all your sports and betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wager information needs, including live betting on your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right. So in this second segment, like I said, we are going to talk about the historic night for Nick Backstrom. He is Alex Ovechkin's right-hand man. He is the one that dishes the puck to Alex Ovechkin, and Ovechkin gets all the credit. Well, not tonight. For just a moment, Nick Backstrom can put down that fork full of humble pie and just kind of take it all in. Nick Backstrom, take a bow. You get your 1,000th point. And, like I say, he's not the guy that likes to live in the limelight. He is more comfortable in feeding that pass off to Ovi in the left dot and him slamming it home. But this was his moment to shine. Capitals alternate captain Nicholas Backstrom recorded his 1,000th point in the NHL game Wednesday against the Edmonton Oilers at Rogers Place, becoming the second player in franchise history to reach that milestone. Alex Ovechkin has 1,390 points. Additionally, Backstrom is the 40th player in NHL history to record 1,000 points with one franchise and 737 career assists are the sixth most through a player's first 1,000 points in NHL history. Backstrom has earned 1,000 points in 1,037 career games with the Capitals. He ranks first in franchise history in assists at 737, second in points, 1,000, games played, 1,037, power play points, 405, and overtime goals, 9, and fourth in goals, 263, power play goals, 80. Backstrom was drafted by Washington in the first round, fourth overall in the 2006 NHL draft. So, I mean, well, just look at all those goals that I just rattled off there for you. He is quite the player. And like I say, he is a guy that shrugs away from the limelight and he kind of and aims it at Alex Ovechkin. Say Alex Ovechkin doesn't deserve it, but every once in a while take that, because if there's one thing we know about Backstrom, he has a pretty sweet scoring touch as well. Since his NHL debut on October 5th, 2007, Backstrom is the fifth player to record 1,000 points during that span, joining Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby, Patrick Kane, and Evgeny Malkin. During this span, Backstrom additionally ranks first in the NHL with 737 assists and second with 405 power play points, despite ranking 17th in games played. He is the first player from his 2006 NHL draft class to reach that mark, and he holds a 62-point lead over the next highest scoring player from his class, that being Mr. Hot Dogs, Phil Kessel. In addition to becoming the 93rd player in NHL history to reach that milestone, Backstrom is the sixth Swedish player in NHL history to reach 1,000 points. Backstrom ranks fourth among Swedish players in the NHL history with 737. His 0.96 points per game rate ranks second among Swedish players with at least 1,000 points, only behind Matt Sundin, who averaged 1.00 points per game and is the all-time Swedish points leader with 1,349. So, wow, just an amazing career. I mean, even if he retired today, wow, what a career for Nick Backstrom. Like I say, let's hear it. Let's hear it for Nick Backstrom. I know he's not going to want to hear it, but let's take a bow. Let's clap for him. Backstrom owns 5 of the top 10 highest single-season assists total in franchise history between 2009-10, 68 assists, 2008 to 2009, 66 assists, 2016-17, 63 assists, 13-14, 61 assists, 14-15, 60 assists. He is one of the 28 players in NHL history and one of 4 active players to record 5 60-assist seasons. And then that list includes Joe Thornton, Crosby, Connor McDavid. Backstrom's personal career high of 100 points during the 09-10 season is the 7th most points by a player in franchise history. And he's one of just 4 Capitals to reach 100-point mark in a season. Ovechkin 4 times, Dennis Murak, and Mike Gartner. During the 2021 season, Backstrom led the team with 53 points and played in his 1,000th career game on April 15th, 2021 against the Buffalo Sabres. Wow, what a career for Nick Backstrom. I mean, what else can you say about that guy? Where would the Capitals be without Nick Backstrom? I mean, like I say, it's not just his assists. I mean, he's a leader in the locker room. I think that a lot of players for the Capitals look up to him. I think that most notably, if you look at Tom Wilson used to call him dad for a long period of time. So I think that he is a positive mentor for younger Capitals players. I mean, if I'm going to follow my career after anyone, and if I'm playing as a centerman or a forward, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to listen to everything Nick Backstrom has to say, because I'll guarantee you what he has to say is worth noting. So what a career for Nick Backstrom. All right, after the break, we are going to talk about Ilya Samsonov and how he has done nothing really but muddy the waters. We'll talk about his play after the break. All right, welcome back to the show. Like I said, in this final segment here, we are going to talk about one Ilya Samsonov and where he stands with the Capitals. Before this game tonight, I kind of thought to myself, I know where I stand with Ilya Samsonov. Send him away. send him away. I don't care what I get in return, send him away. Not really. But just his play all year has been inconsistent. I think we can all agree on that. It just seems like when he wants to turn it up, he can really turn it up. And then when he doesn't play well, he's not even close. So I don't know what's going on with Ilya Samsonov, to be honest with you. I think that he could stand to use some time in Hershey just to kind of refocus him. Because as we make this push towards the playoffs, we cannot stand for inconsistent play. I mean, that might stand in the regular season, but that is not going to stand in postseason. So I think that the Capitals are going to have to do some soul searching here. Are they going to be able to pull in a big name goaltender? There are some big ones out there, but are they interested in coming to the Capitals? Most notably, like I touched on earlier, Elliot Friedman talked about it, would Marc-Andre Fleury, would he come to the Capitals? And I tend to think not. I think that Andre Fleury is a Penguin for life. And I think there was enough instilled in him, enough hatred in him for the Washington Capitals that he'll never come here. And I would love to be proven wrong. I really would. I think that, having a Vanacek, Andre Fleury tandem would be pretty lights out. But that's one of the things that I talked about, and Brian McClellan has talked about as much, is that enough to catapult this Capitals team over the top? If they get Marc-Andre Fleury, are they a Stanley Cup contender? That is a great question that I don't think has a clear answer. Just my opinion on the subject, I don't think it's enough. I want to think to myself that this Capitals team has what it takes, and they might, but I think that they still kind of need to focus in on some things. I mean, if you look at anything, you looked at how they played against the Hurricanes, and you take a look at how they played against the Flames. Those were two teams at the top of their division. So there's certain aspects that I look at them and I think to myself, yeah, they probably could go farther in the playoffs. And then they'll have some inconsistent play, and I question everything. So I just think that, coming back to Samsonov here, can they focus him before the trade deadline? Because that's ultimately what it comes down to. That is the deadline for them to make a decision on him. I just think that, he's shown inconsistent play all season. Samsonov has been playing second fiddle to Vitek Vanacek since the Czech goaltender came off injured reserve just over a week ago. Since then, Vanacek has looked strong. He had a 36 save shutout in a 4-0 win against Carolina on Thursday, and followed that with 29 saves in the Capitals' 5-2 victory over Seattle on Saturday. He's made 31 saves in Washington's 5-4 win at Calgary Flames on Tuesday. So that's just kind to contrast what Vitek Vanacek has done. And if you take a look at Vanacek, and that's what we're going to talk about here, because if you're talking about Samsonov, you got to talk about Vanacek, because at this present moment, that is the tandem that is playing for the Washington Capitals. So, I've heard different things out there from different, these people that talk about the team that honestly, they're kind of talking with zero authority. If there's a few of them out there, Jeff Merrick and Elliot Friedman and some of them players out there, but I heard it said out there, and I talked about it in an earlier podcast, that they were maybe considering about sending Vanacek to Chicago and then us getting Marc-Andre Fleury for that. And, maybe they would do that for Ilya Samsonov. I don't think that the Capitals will be moving on from Vitek Vanacek. So, Caps Nation, I think you can sleep pretty sound knowing that will not happen. I don't think there'll be ever another situation where they let him leave. If you remember how the Capitals fans were all up in arms after he left in the expansion draft, and then through some magic trick, he was able to get him back. They sent Dylan to Winnipeg and draft picks and blah, blah, blah. They were able to get him back. I don't think that the Capitals are going to give up on him right away. So that's what I'm saying about Samsonov, is I think that what they're missing the most right now is Mitch Korn. Let's just be honest. Mitch Korn, the goalie whisperer, was the guy that could kind of take all these ragtag goalies and could focus them. He came out there with his props and his lights and his blinders and his blindfolds. And all through that hocus pocus, he was able to focus the Washington Capitals. And I just think that Ilya Samsonov could use a goalie coach like that to go over film and figure out when he's playing hot, why can't he keep doing that going forward? And then look at his games that he's weak and tweak those games. What is he doing wrong, and can he fix that? That's what they have to determine, because as we head towards the playoffs, I mean, the Capitals really can't afford too much of this. Is he going to work out? Is he not going to work out? I'm not really sure if he's going to work out. The Capitals have got to figure it out before it's too late. And I think that they can do that. But like I say, they need a goalie coach, and they need to have the brain trust for the Washington Capitals take a look at the net-minding situation and decide what they're going to do. Again, I mean, I don't want to sway my opinion on one play. I'm going to give all credit where credit is due. Ilya Samsonov played really great against the Oilers. So hats off to him, but inconsistency is what worries me. So he played really great that game. How is he going to play the next game? I still say you give Fucale a shot here before the trade deadline, but we don't have a lot of runway between now and the trade deadline. That's my opinion. I don't think the Capitals share in my opinion. So anyway, that is Locked On Capitals for today. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen for the day. Now make your second listen Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Hosts Steele Roden and Flip Livingstone help you become the expert of your fantasy league. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts.